just to keep going on, Tommy Robinson counter-jihad stuff, it's the Muslims, it's all about the Muslims, and Islam is the biggest threat, and we need to ban Islam. But they never say the same thing about Judaism.
They put these people up as fronts. They absolutely pay for them. We know that in the rebel media out of Canada. There's always Jews providing false right-wing, pseudo-nationalist solutions in every Western countries, and that's part of the system.
Exactly. State-approved nationalism. Tom Robinson still gets promotion. I don't think he's raking in the donations as he did a couple of years ago, because the day I was convicted, he went up to and was arrested outside court. My really huge, important case, but all the headlines. That was his big war horse, wasn't it? The grooming gangs. It's always been that way. But before that, you did have Nick Griffin and Mark Collett going to court because they tried to expose the grooming gangs. They were both acquitted, but then the BNP fell apart, and so you got the EDL, the English Defence League, which is Zionist funded, Zionist founded, and Tommy Robinson being promoted. But when he was in prison last year, that was quite a big turning point, actually, because a lot of people realised there were these double standards with regard to the Islamist issue and the Judaism issue in Israel. So he lost a lot of support there. Some of his Israeli colleagues put out a video slandering Mark Collett and a couple of Mark Collett's close colleagues, and people were shocked by that. I think, that was the beginning of the end for Tommy Robinson. He keeps getting kicked off all these platforms. But in the end, the biggest problem Tommy Robinson faces, and I would say that that's true of nationalist movements in Britain, that they just don't appeal to enough of the voting classes to get anywhere. And with the electoral system, that's never going to see any kind of victory. I mean, the British National Party under Griffin, they tried it. They got a couple of European members of parliament and a couple of councillors, but that all fell apart. They're not going to do it now in this current climate. Collett can't manage to register his patriotic alternative brand as a political party. I just can't see how it's useful to lead people down the path that there is an electoral solution when there clearly isn't. There clearly is not. There cannot be an electoral solution at the moment with this system in Britain unless there's some radical changes. I think the idea with Collett, he wants to kind of lead a movement that will, if it reaches political status and is registered as a party, will turn into something like the Ralliement National, Marine Le Pen's type of nationalism, and the AfD in Germany. These kind of kosher brands of nationalism, where they're not going to counter-signal Israel. So that's all it is. It's the Muslims. It's the Muslims. The people complaining with these same tired, worn accusations, the Black Lives Matter has kind of made them sit up and look and say, oh yeah, but what about the blacks? It's not just the Asians and the Muslims. It has made people perhaps more inclined to have a look at the racial aspect of it. But for the moment, I can't see there's not going to be any success. And we've got all these little parties. There's For Britain and Britain First, and I can't remember, the National Front. You've still got the BNP. It still exists. There's 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 tiny little nationalist parties. It just shows, and they're all fighting between themselves as usual. It's always been that way in British nationalism. Everybody accusing everybody else of being a spy, and it's just pathetic. The petty infighting, people just can't see it, and they jump in there and start accusing their fellow whites of being, traitors and spies and working for Hope Not Hate and working for the Jews and blah, blah, blah. It's just, our society has created a generation of people, and no one has the qualities to be a leader. And they're all cooking to the Me Too's and the feminists and the woke brigade. I despair, really. It's always the same. Maybe desperate times will bring along somebody who's capable of inspiring people to lead a movement and create something that's worth doing. But I really don't think that a political party working along racial lines at the moment in Britain, there's no way that they're going to allow that to take off. And, fair enough to Collett. He's got this intelligent Indian guy at his side, and there's an author who's half Pakistani from Glasgow. He's not being racist in the traditional terms that, he's black, you can't be a member. You can't do that in Britain anyway. You can't discriminate if you're a political party. You cannot discriminate on skin colour. You've got to accept everybody. But, at the same time, then Collett is saying, all right, ban Islam. So what are you going to do? You're going to ban Muslims who are white, but you have black Pakistanis coming in, and there's no coherence, no consistency, and no real plan. It's just, we've got to come together and do grassroots politics and then walk up a hill and put out a White Lives banner. It's just, there doesn't seem to be much of a solution, I'm afraid.